promise, let's shift focus to India's tea industry then. India's tea exports hit a decade high of 255 million kg in calendar year 2024, implying a jump of about 10% on a year-on-year basis. Demand from UAE, Iraq and Russia rose in 2024, which led to the surge in Indian tea exports. Not just that, there is one more good news for Indian tea producers and the ailing tea industry. Average price of Indian tea in the global market rose by about 10% in 2024. And to discuss this in greater detail, we now have Mr. Arijit Raha, Secretary General of Indian Tea Association, now joining us. Mr. Raha, thank you so much for taking your time out, joining us here on ET Now. And 2024 was a solid year for tea industry with exports at decadal high. But will the momentum continue this year as well? How have exports been in the first 3 months of this calendar year? And what's the case when it comes to prices? Because reports suggest that tea prices have also risen by about 10%. Is the trend continuing this year?
Very good afternoon, and thank you for having me on your show. Yes, the tea exports have increased, have touched a level of 254.67, about 255 million kgs, which is about 10% higher. What is good is the revenue from the tea exports have also increased from a level of about 6,160 crores last year to 7,111 crores into 2024, with the unit prices being marginally higher. Having said that, we are not aware of whether the last 3 months, what the trend has been, because tea board export figures actually are available as of now up to December only. But we are hopeful that the trend will continue. The gains, as you have very correctly stated, has come from 5 key markets: Iran, Iraq, USA, Russia. Actually, to put it in perspective, India's global share now has moved up to about 13.4% from the erstwhile position of 11% in the 1900 odd million kg export market. And what is also heartening, that the ITC bulletin, which has been just released, has pegged India in the 3rd position, with Sri Lanka now going to the 4th. We had been at the 4th position for many years now, so we have moved up 1 step. I think as we look forward, it is expected that yes, the export demand would sustain, one. And the second, we also feel that there are certain policy interventions that needs to be further taken forward in terms of looking at export promotion in the key markets. The government of India has very kindly made some allocations for export promotion, which will be used for mounting delegations and having roadshows of these key markets that we are talking about. That's one. On the fiscal side, we are hoping that our reward rate for RODTEP, which made its revision, I mentioned this earlier on your show as well, is also looked at for a slightly upward revision from the existing 1.4%. We are embedded tax rate is about 5.9. A significant issue is also the export contribution from each region. And if you really look at the figures, you will see that North India, which is Assam and West Bengal, have contributed about 61% of the exports and about 67% of the value. Now, Assam exports Orthodox tea and CTC both, and these are evacuated from a container depot, the ICD Amingaon in Guwahati, which is used for transportation of the export consignments to Haldia port and then on the sea route. Now, the inland transportation costs are quite high, and there is a case for looking at a revision of the cost assistance schemes that are in place, apart from revamping the infrastructure. As a long-term perspective, while we are still on policy, may I just mention that it would be good to have a north-west corridor, freight corridor, which would carry Indian goods from the eastern India, and it would align with the Act's policy, to the western ports of Bombay and Orissa. This would cut down the inland transportation cost, which in India is higher as compared to our competitors.
Those are some of the policy measures that you expect from the government in order to boost India's tea exports. But there are also some reports which suggest that rising imports of Kenyan tea have sparked concerns that cheap and lower quality African tea is being used for blending and even re-exported into other markets in the name of Indian tea. Are these reports true?
Well, I cannot categorically comment on whether these reports are true or not, because these are not evidenced by any documentary evidence either from the customs or the tea board, which is available in the public domain. But let me put this in perspective. See, we are working very closely with the tea board to try and see how we could strengthen the present scrutiny framework that is subsisting for teas that come into India, to look at their quality parameters, the microbial parameters, as also the chemical compliance parameters as they are applicable to tea. So if you are going to be in a position to ensure that good quality tea is coming, it would actually complement the Indian tea, whether it is for consumption or re-export. As far as Kenya is concerned, the tea board figures still do not confirm it, although we have seen releases by some Kenyan authorities about 13.7 million coming in. As if we look at imports generally, you will find that it's been growing at about 1.49% CAGR over the last 10 to 12 years. We have touched a maximum 30 million in 2022. And this year, 2024, that we are talking about, it is pegged at about, I think, 16 million, or roughly 16.47 in 2024 from January to October. Of this, about 13 million has come from Nepal. So it is not just Kenya, but the Nepal teas are also coming in. And these have their economic ramifications in place. But the fact is, we need to actually strengthen the checks and balances that, as is being done by other countries like Sri Lanka. And there is just to be a prior approval on a sample basis before such consignments come into the country. I think that would be the best way forward.
Okay, so we understand that's as far as the import situation is concerned, but you did tell us that directionally exports have risen in the first 3 months, although you don't have the actual figures. Exports have risen, but what's the situation when it comes to prices for Indian tea in the global market as well as domestic tea prices? What has the trend been?
Well, as far as as I said, in the year that has gone by, 2024, we have just stepped into the new season, and the season has just started. But as far as 2024 is concerned, yes, our export prices were higher than the previous year, both in terms of unit value and the total revenue that we have achieved. Domestic prices also in India increased by about 18% to about 30 rupees odd. That was the increase that was registered. But that came on the back of a reduction in the production. As you know, that Indian production in 2024, we closed it at 1284 million kgs, which is actually about 108 million kgs below the levels that we achieved in 2023. So the benefits really have not accrued to the extent that it should have to the industry from the increased prices. As we look forward to this year, I think by all indications, we should be having a more better monsoon. The crop is just about coming in. It's very early to tell, but we are hopeful that the production would be higher and the prices would at least hold.
That's the outlook as far as prices are concerned, that domestic prices have risen by about 18%. Mr. Raha, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us and helping us decode what the implications will be of rising tea exports from India.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.